It's what we call a neurodegenerative disease. It's a disease that causes the brain to degenerate over time, to change over time, to the point where some of the principal functions that your brain can execute and perform very normally become affected. It's very different from what happens in normal aging. When you age normally, you may have some changes in your speed of thinking, you may have some changes in your memory, you may tend to forget certain things more easily. But with Alzheimer's, those changes are a lot more pronounced, and they can have so much of an impact that they can affect your everyday function. You're remembering things that you would have never forgotten, remembering people that are important to you, remembering how to do certain things. So it can have significant implications in terms of how a person's life will carry on as they get older. So Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. And so dementias are conditions or diseases that affect the brain principally and can affect the way in which the brain functions. And Alzheimer's is the biggest one within that umbrella of dementias. It's the one that affects most people. And so that's how kind of that relationship between Alzheimer's and dementia is. I think that the most straightforward statistic that we typically share when we think of that is that African Americans, Black individuals in our communities are 2 times more likely than whites in general to develop Alzheimer's disease. And they are affected sometimes sooner, and they are affected sometimes more aggressively. And the other important thing is that they tend to be diagnosed less frequently. And that may be as a result of the fact that people perceive this to be a condition that is normal to aging at times until it's progressed significantly. And in other instances, it may be because of the hesitation to seek medical care for something like that. And it's exciting because there's a lot of concerted efforts that are being made to approach Alzheimer's disease from a number of different angles. And one of those angles is lifestyle prevention, right? And so by making changes in your life early enough, maybe you can offset when the disease occurs. A lot of that research is still undergoing, and we find that it does have an impact. But we still, in some respects, are still unclear on what exactly is it that is going to prevent, treat, cure the disease. There are other avenues, of course, where there are treatments now that are becoming available, and there's a lot of work that is being diligently done by a number of different groups in research to find ways of tackling the disease from different angles. The one that I am most involved with, and I'm very excited about, is a form of prevention treatment, or not treatment, but investigational treatment that we are exploring. And we are actually doing that as part of a study called the AHEAD study. And if you want to find additional information on that specific study, you can go to or visit the website at aheadstudy.org. And this study aims to test an investigational treatment that hopefully can prevent Alzheimer's disease years before, that is 20 to 25 years even before, is when we begin to see the changes in your brain. And so if we can begin to address those changes, our hope is that individuals will never even experience the disease if it works that way. So it is indeed the case that less than 5% of clinical trial participants in Alzheimer's disease altogether is Black. And that's concerning. And I'll tell you first why that's concerning, and then I want to tell you what we can do, right? And that's concerning because what that tells us is that whatever investigational treatment, be it the investigational treatment in AHEAD or in other studies, is not being tested and evaluated to see how effective it is, or how safe it is, or how it works and how the body reacts to it in individuals that are Black or African American. That may affect the potential for an avenue to prevent this disease for a whole population of individuals. So it's very important that we take a seat at the table and we engage with clinical trials in general, but in particular a study like this one that aims to prevent, hopefully through a treatment like this, and individuals developing Alzheimer's years down the road. I oftentimes there's people that have different reasons why they got involved. I always knew that I was interested in brain research and that I was interested in finding a way to contribute to have an impact and to change the course of maybe a disease for people. And I definitely became very involved with health disparities, very intrigued by them, and finding ways to mitigate them, to reduce them, and eliminate them altogether. And I think that becomes a big cause for a lot of us. And I find that this is a huge space that requires a lot of work and a lot of support and a lot of education and a lot of developing incentives to motivate people to become involved, because it is one pathway by which we can reduce those disparities. If we have ways to treat everyone, if we can explore ways to treat everyone, then everyone can benefit. But as it stands, we're limited in that regard, and that has to change. No, thank you. It's my pleasure, and I really appreciate the time, the space, and I appreciate what you do and getting the information out and getting the information out to people. And I think this is important. This is the way that we work together, because it's an effort that requires all of us. And I can't do it from this side only. It requires people like you, and it requires the individual out there in your audience that is listening to this, that may be at risk, that may have concern, that and it's just curious and maybe on the fence over whether to check it out. So I'll put my plug in one more time, and headstudy.org. That's just one opportunity, one way in which you can and just find out if you want to be involved, if this is a good fit for you.